and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Next, we have approval of the August 25th minutes, and since I wasn't here, Leslie, I'll let you take it away.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve. I didn't have.
Yeah, they're fine. This is good. I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'm just going to abstain since I wasn't here. Okay, so next we have citizens' comments for any items that are not on the agenda, and wow, that is so packed here tonight. I'm sorry, did you find a seat okay?
I did unlock the door, right?
Yes, I'm on.
Okay, so if anyone want to run to the podium. Okay, on that note. What? Oh, okay.
It's just the whole downtown.
I know, it was empty.
Yeah.
It was great.
I came through at 6 o'clock and it was empty.
Oh, well, they're all doing something fun. And so are we. Okay, so we don't see Andrea. Did you hear anything from her?
Yes, she will be just a little late,
Okay.
but she is scheduled to arrive. We do have Tim here, though.
I know. Guess what, Tim? Take it away. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you, Judith. Good evening, Council, Planning Commission members. I don't have a whole lot to offer tonight, but just one update. We're updating the comprehensive plan, the Livable Frederick document, and the staff working on that are scheduling public outreach meetings and throughout the entire county. Certainly one will be in the eastern part near Mt.Airy. You'll be invited, certainly. That's still in the works. I do have one thing to hand out. This is a brochure created by our Economic Development Office. It's a good map of the description of every brewery, winery, and distillery in the county.
Ooh, that sounds fun. Yeah, we definitely want that. Perfect. Yeah, say Patty one. Perfect timing, Patty.
But if the commission has any, questions or information you would like for next month or the following month, please let me know now or through Heather, and I can get whatever information or data or whatever you may want. But that's all I have for this evening.
In relation, when we had Peter Francher here at the town level a couple of months ago, he was talking about making Maryland basically the wine capital of the East Coast. He is dying to see more breweries with the success that we've had with, not breweries, wineries,
Mm-hmm.
with the success that they've had. All of them around are doing very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there are quite a few in Frederick County. They're all listed here.
And so they're looking at state law and trying to make things easy for everybody.
Yeah, that's what our county executive and our county council has done. They've amended a lot of our zoning ordinances and regulations to facilitate this type of development in the agricultural industry and the ag tourism. So the county has done a lot to facilitate these uses being established.
Doing a great job.
Thanks.
Tim, I think you're aware of this, but we have released an RFP for a downtown master plan project. Very comprehensive project. It was a primary initiative once we updated the town master plan and so forth. It addresses a lot of critical goals and vision and so forth and challenges that we felt for some time for the downtown. It also speaks to what it would take to transition from just the restricted downtown area to a somewhat larger town center area, and with Center Street as part of that. We want to be sure that you and your planning team in Frederick City and Frederick County is aware of that, because we want to have additional eyes and additional planning expertise that's looking at that and working with us on it once we ultimately, decide who's the right team to help us with it and so forth.
Sure, the planning department would be very happy to lend a hand or review or participate in any which way you'd like.
I mean, it's kind of our living, breathing mini version of livable Frederick. This is like livable downtown Mt.Airy, town center Mt.Airy. So it's a big deal for us.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Tim? Well, thank you. Thanks for seeing you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Enjoy.
Tim.
Okay, so yes. Hi, Barney.
Hello.
Okay, so next we have under new business, Center Street Interchange proposal, Mr. Ron Thompson from Van Meyer Associates. Hey, welcome to the podium.
Thank you, Planning Commission members. Not to exclude Barney or Rachel, they kind of seen this. I have been making the rounds. Part of my past experience has been as a traffic transportation engineer for over 25 years up and down the East Coast internationally. And so I do like to come up with transportation plans occasionally, or concepts. One that I have before you today, and I will put up, because of the screen, it gets a little bit distorted, so I will put up the plan here for everyone to see, is to provide a connection directly between the east and west side of the town of Mt.Airy. Now, tried to do this where I can speak a little bit into the microphone at the same time, and hopefully everybody can see or has seen there. But the idea would be on the back property, and to give you, this is called the Weiss shopping area here, the end of Center Street from downtown. This is the self-storage area in through here, and Twin Arch Business Park at this end. If you're thinking of, and the Mill Farm at this location.
Where's
So-
Century Boulevard?
Century Boulevard is right here, past the
Okay.
self-storage,
Right, yeah, okay.
Ford Dodge dealer,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Century Ford Dodge, in that location. Twin Arch Road is in this location, Park Avenue, Route 27 northbound, Route 27 southbound towards Interstate 70, to give you kind of an understanding of it. So one of the ideas, I initially had looked at some type of a better transportation solution here at the Twin Arch Road and Route 27, but it got to be rather complicated and costly. And then started to look at, in particular, as we get to looking at providing a connection between east and west Mt.Airy, is replacing the existing Center Street intersection with a grade separated facility crossing over Route 27. Now, it has been placed at up from the Center Street intersection at a location where you can bridge over Route 27 without requiring any additional work on Route 27. And of course, any type of connection would be built to preserve the opportunity for the Route 27 corridor widening in the future. The concept would be to complete Center Street into two roundabouts. Those are basically what State Highway likes to design these days, because it includes traffic signals. They're used in urban areas. Westminster has one just outside of the high school down by the Lowe's.
Oakdale,
So,
I got one from Oakdale High School also.
Oakdale, and they have full pedestrian access through them.
Sure.
So the idea would be to close Center Street, a connection from Center Street through the interchange, grade crossing, all the way straight down to Century Boulevard, and a direct connection into Century Boulevard down here. Apologize, got a little low there on the map. So that if you extended Century Boulevard, where it dead ends into the cornfield, would be a new connection. So what you would look at seeing, because this is Backacre Circle right here, is that a lot of the traffic from Twin Arch Business Park, potentially Brittany Manor, if I can ever get stormwater management resolved, and the residential areas, could see an easier path coming out with a connection to Route 27. So if you're coming southbound or northbound on Route 27, you would come off on a ramp, and you could make a connection either this way, back into the east side of Mt.Airy. Once the back property were ever developed, you would have that also as a connection. or into Backacre Circle and all the development back in that area. You could also go around the roundabout and make a connection into Center Street there. And it works the same on all approaches. I was asked at a presentation, why are the ramps so long in one direction and so short in this direction? It's simply because you're chasing the grade.
Great.
Yeah.
You're up high, so coming back down is a shorter distance than coming back up. And actually, if you, I'm driving Route 27, when you go past the doctor's offices, dentist, you'll see that little patch of corn in there. That's really state highway property. So you would come up through, just follow the grade up
Right.
to an interchange. Because of this location, you would have to close Center Street intersection, and you would either have access with another access road down to the church, Mills Farm, sewer plant, and whatever else occurs down there. For the park, you would come up and come around on the roadway and down, make a connection here, back to the park, the dentist office. Pretty much a direct connection, right turn. The advantage coming out is now you would not have to wait and try to make a left turn through all the traffic if you were headed northbound for it.
I have a question. Is that okay?
Yes,
You are.
yes.
Well, it just has to do with Center Street, and you're still envisioning that Center Street would be open to Main Street then, the rest of Center Street? Yes, or?
There is a connection right here, connected into the end of where it ends right now for Center Street.
Right, so it would change the, where Center Street comes out on 27,
That's
but
correct.
it went,
You would still have a connection from existing Center Street to Route 27 and over to Century Boulevard.
and to Main Street. It wouldn't, basically, it wouldn't impact
It-
opening Center Street.
It would go down,
Okay.
I'm not proposing to
Right.
impact the existing
Okay.
pavement
Okay.
for Center Street.
Okay.
And they're part of the master plan, or
Yeah.
downtown master plan will be looking at what is that corridor in the future for it. So if you were looking at,
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Before you go any further? Where is the middle school in relation to, isn't it on this road here?
it's
Further
up
over.
here,
Oh, it's,
off
Further
of
up
Watersville,
27.
just on the other side.
Yeah,
of
'cause the
on the
back,
other side of the park
It's
Yeah,
at
the-
2 o'clock.
yeah.
okay, so this wouldn't affect the intersection?
of Watersville.
No.
No.
No, it would not for that. Rails to trails connection can be a number of different ways. Whether or not you're able to do a grade separation at this location, or simply a winding of the path up and back in. I sort of thought that some way we could work out a more direct connection at that location there, to be determined. So when you look at, this is actually a profile of Route 27 here, where the lowest part gets down around about where Center Street is, and you start to go back up the hill. So placing the overpass at this location, and I've got about 4 feet allowed for depth of structure. It won't be more than that, hopefully will be less than that. Got about 20 feet of clearance, which exceeds the requirements for State Highway in Asheville. This would be, because it's on State Highway, this would be state-owned, State Highway owned. Now, the right-of-way would be through the roundabout, about what you see colored in gray there. They would maintain the ramps, the roundabout, the bridge crossing, because it is a state highway access point into it. And state, one of the things that the state will be keen about is when you look at access coming off, where are your intersections beyond the roundabout or the rotary? Because they don't want like an intersection right here. Same here, they're looking for, that this flow and not create another traffic problem.
Ron, we've known for some time that as Mt.Airy East developed, there would be the need to take some of the stress off of the Twin Arch 27 intersection and distribute, traffic
Right.
across more than one location and one way to get onto 27 or to get across it. And in the 2003 master plan, there was a map or two that showed the extension of Century Drive, basically tying in, I think, the wastewater treatment plant
So
road.
the the Route 27 corridor study in the master plan has Century Boulevard coming down at this location and coming back around.
Okay, so, and loving trees and all of that, it concerns me a little bit that we, by taking this more direct route and one that scales up and over, basically, the hillock and all the trees and so forth, we cut some down, but it's a more direct path. I guess my question is, in terms of the two alternatives, what you're proposing versus the traditional way that we thought about at grade, what's the cost differential in terms of town versus SHA for the two approaches?
Well, I'll get to that. I don't know what the cost differential, I don't know what this cost was and never estimated what the cost is, but in the presentation, I'll get to what I think and what I have done in the past as a potential financing plan
Okay.
for a crossing such as this.
Before you get to the financial stuff, I couldn't see what you were pointing to when you answered those questions. So is it accurate that when Century comes to 27, it is the easement that goes by Mills? Is that right?
That's what's in the plan.
That's what's in the
27
That's what I thought, but I just wanted to confirm it.
Right.
So then, based on your diagram, so it dumps on the east side, it dumps into the new Century.
It connects
It connects,
into the new Century and whatever
Right.
other development is
and then
through
what,
here.
and then what does it connect on the west side?
West side, it ties directly into the end of Center Street.
You reroute Center
Just,
Street.
Right.
right here
No, I'm
is
not,
in
I'm
Center
talking about
Street.
here. as
Down the
you're-
bottom.
As you're exiting 27
Mhm.
on the west side, what is it? So you said you're closing Center Street, what is it, where's it going?
There would be a new roadway, what's dashed here.
Okay, and that's on the, which side of the current Center Street?
To the
Oh,
left.
It would
The
be to
south
the
of-
south.
Right.
It would be to the south of
Closer to
the
23.
Okay.
little medical building right
So,
here.
so right where the medical is, or on the other?
No.
On the other
across
side.
the
A little
hill,
bit, okay.
a ways.
So that-
It looks to be, from the medical place, it would be about 350 feet,
So you're
Or
just, so you're
700
going
yards.
through
The field.
the field.
Mhm.
okay, all right.
But how do you get into the medical, because this is not going to be.
You would come up
accessible, right?
on Center Street, the relocated Center Street, to an intersection, and then you just make a right turn down onto,
So they would lose their
Old
27
Center
access.
Yeah, they lose the excess.
So
Yep.
that's also the way you would get into Watkins.
that's
Right.
correct. That would be the way into Watkins.
That's how you'd have to get
Oh.
to Watkins.
I'm not sure that you would be able to keep a right turn off of the ramp into Watkins.
Yeah.
I don't know what state highway would say of that. But what this allows is, although that's the way into Watkins, also the way out is one where you come out and don't have to sit there and try to make a right turn.
Across the 27.
Cross traffic.
So if you're on a bike or something going to the park or walking, how does that fit in? What's the, like, in the way, let's just, in the
If you're
basic,
using rails to trail,
Yeah,
well,
okay.
there are couple alternatives. I've envisioned some type of additional grade separation, whether it's under or over, for rails to trails here.
Ideally.
Thinking it would be under. The other way is if you came up a new surface roadway through the new surface Center Street and connecting to Old Center Street and into the park or rails to trail.
Well, I know that you said the State Highway Administration likes the roundabouts. I am on 99 and take my life in my hands every time I get into a roundabout. Because people coming off Old Frederick Road go flick right through and on 99 and do not see anything.
And I
So,
think too, in Frederick, they have a few of them, and there are 2 lanes, sometimes 3.
mhm,
And you start going through it, and all of a sudden you're like,
Yep.
which lane am I supposed to be in? And
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
so they are confusing.
I'm not sure you would need 2 lanes for the type of traffic you're looking at here.
Well, even
But-
one lane
but
on
even-
99 is
but
enough to
even-
take.
This is the concept. I like roundabouts, but again, it could be just a straight intersection with stop sign there too. But again, you've got, depends on traffic, depends on the state, town, county on it. Typically, when they're being designed, you see more of these as the concept now, for Route 32 and others.
Right.
The state doesn't have to then worry in the future of a traffic signal and maintenance that causes, and sometimes liability accidents from traffic signals.
Any other questions for Ron?
So, let me just
Okay.
get to a couple, kind of summarize it up here, because I know that not a big crowd, don't want to hang around too long here.
Enjoy the warm air while you have it.
You've got this in a handout, but it does provide a connectivity between the east and west sides of Mount Airy without requiring an accurate pedestrian crossing of 27. It gives the town a signature entrance into the town of Mount Airy, Center Street, downtown Mount Airy. Provides a more direct connection between Twin Arch Business Park, the industrial area, Twin Arch, residential communities, and Route 27. Gives you a rails to trail connection, and it will improve traffic on the Route 27 Park Avenue Twin Arch intersection operation, and it should be significantly more than what was forecast with the connection of over to Century Boulevard, the sewer, and out to Center Street. Just in distance at grade, there is a little bit of a bump that you would have with that. The one of the things that in my discussion with the state to see whether or not this would even fly to begin a discussion process was that they believe, because of the route, town has been doing a Route 27 corridor study, that the traffic consultant for that, Sarver Wing, already has a traffic model built there. So they would like to see whether it's an additional chapter and appendix to the corridor study. If the town were supporting this interchange, that you would look at 4 study conditions based on what is in the traffic study. You have a 2025 without corridor improvements, 2025 with corridor improvements, and you have the same at the 2040 and the 2040 horizon year. So you look at what is the traffic and how does that work. They'd want to look at, confirm that there's sufficient distance between this end of this ramp and Park Avenue, which there is, but nevertheless, they want that confirmed. It's called the weave distance there, or the ramp separation. And looking at also what would be a revised level service or traffic operation of the Route 27 Park Avenue Twin Arch Road intersection. There. You have that now with the connection to Center Street. I'm always asked, well, cost-wise, and I think Bill is starting to get to that in a minute. I actually, working with a contractor, had the interchange somewhere around, our cost, $6 million. So by the time you get done adding state highway and others, it will go up because there are a lot of other factors that they'll add into it. But I would recommend that any type of interchange include from Center Street all the way through Central Boulevard as part of a defined project. And the reason for that is this type of programming is urban. Federal funding can be 75%, and local private funding 25%. By extending the local roadways and having a local entity, such as a developer, pay for the local roadways, that's paying for the 25% of the project. So the interchange itself, or that so-called 75% cost, would be borne with federal funds. Now, one of the advantages of this is that we hear from the state is that the constraint is not so much on the federal funds, but it is on the ability of having state funds available to match federal dollars. You have an opportunity under this project to have local funding, called public-private partnership, to help provide that local match. So, just to sum it up, my recommendation has been that this be added to the Route 27 corridor study as an appendix, or called last chapter, opportunity of a new connection in Mt.Airy, and see what those impacts are.
Ron, for transparency purposes, was your firm hired by the KZA brothers to do this?
No, we have talked about it, but they haven't been funding me for this.
Or your firm?
No, or Vanmark.
Okay.
I'm the only traffic guy there.
But would this be completed only if that development went through?
Well,
At
I
least
think
on
that, I can't say, and nor is there a commitment from them. They're aware of this concept. I've shared it with them because it would impact, for instance, how their property were developed. I mean, one of the comments from the staff, while we wouldn't want any type of development on either side to necessarily be predicated on this occurring and it not occur, and therefore then that hurts the town. But you can design a road network in there that would provide the flexibility for a new connection, whether it's a cul-de-sac here for a little local roadway that eventually is removed for it on it. But I think that, quite frankly, the sense I've gotten in discussions is that a project like this would need private funding in order for it to move forward there. I don't think the town, I've never got the sense the town wants to put dollars into it, per se, to fund the construction of it. But it's an opportunity. I look at it as an opportunity. I look at it as, it's not a given, but quite simply, you gotta be in the game to play the game. You gotta have it in there. You never know what types of dollars, small dollars become available, and how you can leverage that into the future. That's a benefit for the town.
I have one more question for clarity about the, because your first thing was crossing 27. So that is between the two roundabouts, that is a walkway or something across?
You have you have to have sidewalks. It's a bridge over,
Right.
and you would have to have sidewalks on each side.
I can envision some of the, the Mt.Airy Bridge, this type concept in there.
Well, if you can see that, for instance, they just did a bridge, the developer did a bridge over 355 in Frederick, as you head out where it's got the stone facade. But again, that was like 290 acres of development, so
Right.
they didn't have access to primary. But so you have that type, you have some real interesting types of designs.
Right.
That could be a signature bow type bridge, or a different type of stone that matches the character of town Mt.Airy. I mean, all of that is a potential.
There's a bridge at Jefferson Place over 15, where they're developing the Jefferson
The 15.
Place, the 15.
Yeah.
That's the one.
That's the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
That's very nice. That's,
Yeah, it is.
yeah.
Yeah, because I would be concerned at how the feel of the town and the agriculture are kind of
You
rolling
would not
hill
want
feeling of
to
the
steel.
town.
I would not-
Yeah,
I
no
never
steel.
saw
It
this
wasn't
as being a
steel.
Steel
No.
bridge,
Yeah.
more like,
Stone and,
used to do a lot of work in Arcadia where you had the old stone
yes.
bridges, so you would see it mirroring a type of stone.
Yep.
All the bridges down at 97 and Route 50 as you're going, to the beach, but all the bridges down there are stone, and they look very nice.
Stone and brick.
So you're asking, let me clarify, so you're asking that this be included in, as an appendix to the 27 quarter study?
That is my recommendation.
How much would that cost? Or is any idea?
Barney, have you gotten word back from Saberwang on the proposal cost yet?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I mean, so if the planning commission, because I mean, certainly if it's going to be considered, it should be considered as part of everything else.
Mhm.
But is it the planning commission or the town council who spends the money? Or, I mean, we're just
Right.
recommending, I guess.
have never been able to close that loop.
Okay,
Well, it's the town council one, they would have to authorize a budget amendment. What we're here tonight, is getting the recommendation. Because this is where the corridor study started, the scope of the study
Yeah.
started with this body.
yeah.
So is it the planning commission's recommendation to expand that scope, to include an above-grade intersection component, for consideration?
Okay.
Because, recall, all of the considerations, and everything that came out of the community forums and that came from this body, it was at-grade improvements. There were no
Right,
above
right.
grade. So, this would add an expanded
Yeah.
scope.
Well, I would make a motion that we add this project to the appendix for that study.
And I would second that.
Yep. I think we need to have the comparison, we need to have the discussion.
It's an option. You
I'd
know,
still like
we're
to know
not
what the
saying-
cost.
We're not saying right now, gosh, let's do this. Where it's an option that's open
Yeah.
and available
Yeah, I'd
to
like
us.
to compare the financial
Yeah,
from
that'll be part of it.
original to this one and see what that.
But I actually use several of the businesses in the Twin Arch Business Park down there, and one of them actually said to me today that, and he lives out towards Taylorsville, and he said, that would be so easy to get out of here as opposed to, Twin Arch Road. He said, I love it.
So I too think that this should be added, but Ron, I was just wondering, did you give any consideration to another way into Watkins? Because it looks really good. I just wonder if that Watkins bend around there might,
Yeah.
not.
I'm not sure, it may be possible that there's a right turn into Watkins. You definitely could not have a left turn
Yeah.
coming out.
Right.
But it may be possible to have a right turn in, you would not be able to have a left turn, crossing of traffic. It eliminates the crossing
Right.
of traffic there. You
Yeah.
might be able to get a right turn in, I don't know. And it all depends on working with state highway and detailed designs.
I mean, it's not a long distance into Watkins. It's just
Indirect.
But what
It's-
about the
it's
businesses that
indirect,
already
and
have the
it'll
27 frontage that now lose that?
Right.
yeah. Well, and then the Watkins entrance would be hidden because a lot of people barely know where the park is.
I know,
and
yeah,
then
right.
that would not be obvious how to get in there into that park from using the turnaround and then hooking into Center Street and then coming into the Nook there.
It'd have to be.
I mean,
That
that's
was
a very
consideration of
popular
staff as
turn.
well.
That's
When we
very
met
popular.
with Mr. Thompson, eliminating that right turn into Watkins was a concern that we did voice. The other component to this that staff was concerned about is that it is the extension of Center Street and the signalization of the planned Center Street extension has been long considered by State Highway. And State Highway is certainly waiting for the town to make that connection, and they're prepared to signalize
Okay.
that intersection. Roxanne, did you have something to add, or?
Well, I just think putting another signal on 27 is just only going to make it even more of a disaster at rush hour. But
Right.
my other thing is with us doing the, getting the consultant for the downtown, I really think that we need to have this option in there because there might be something better even to come out of that, but I think we need to have that option.
Sure, and I'm not stating against it. I just
Yeah.
want to voice some of the staff's concerns.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
No, I don't have a position.
Staff, you
No.
meaning staff.
Okay.
You
I'm
meaning
gonna
staff.
Just continue.
Okay.
So one of the concerns that we had was that at-grade intersection is on the radar of State Highway, if you will. And when we met with Mr. Thompson, we wanted to be certain that this was a future option. We didn't want the consideration of this interchange to somehow jeopardize the perhaps more short-term needs of getting across 27. As we know, Rails to Trails has been a 30-year effort that has taken off in the past 2 years, thanks to Councilman Hushhour. And that connection, that immediate connection is necessary.
Right.
So when, if we go forward with this study, I cannot preface enough that it can't be an either or. It should not be an either or. We don't want to do anything to jeopardize that at-grade intersection to continue Rails to Trails. Once this interchange would be constructed, we will lose at-grade, the ability to cross at-grade.
Right, if this were constructed.
Right. So I just, that needs to be part of the scope and the consideration. I think that, we need to keep them separate.
Right. I have a couple of questions related to that. So, it sounds to me from what you're saying is that State Highway is ready, like as soon as the town's ready to open up.
The town engineer has had conversations
And
with
then,
the
so
State
what's the
Highway, yes.
connection then to that whole corridor study that we had with all those kind of big plans? Like, is that connected to what you're just talking about, or is that also an or?
That's a what if.
The other part of the corridor study where we had the whole presentation and that Ron wants to be on the appendix of, is that what you're saying? That's the thing that's, if that happens, then the state highway's ready to
No,
or what do
the connection
Wait,
to
I'm asking
Center,
her.
the connection to Center Street.
okay.
So even
So-
if we hadn't have done,
Okay.
even if we did not complete the corridor study,
Right.
State Highway, they're just waiting for
Okay,
that
so then
connection
even
to-
if
to
this is
go.
an appendix to the corridor study, it doesn't impact that because
We
even,
need to make sure that it doesn't.
yeah, because the corridor study itself does not impact that.
Right.
Right.
Now,
So this,
what
if-
this
yeah.
may impact that we have to be cognizant of is the overall road design.
Right.
So, but that will be all factored in, and Mr. Thompson
Right.
explained that.
Yeah.
But in our scope for this study, it can't be an either or, and Mr. Thompson agrees.
Right.
I've seen this, and as Heather has explained it, you really have three things going on. You've got the intermediate, the immediate, intermediate, which is as soon as you can get some type of alignment worked out for Center Street and built, then the state puts in a traffic signal to help control the crossings there, because there will be more with connection into the downtown.
Right.
That's kind of an intermediate need to happen project. Then you've got two future alternatives, corridor and or the interchange, all depending upon in the future how financing would work out for it.
And perhaps
you would-
future
And that's why I
development.
sort of said, put it on in the end as an appendix or as the last chapter or something, that
Right.
this is
Right.
an opportunity that if it were to occur, here's the impacts to the Route 27
Well,
corridor.
when you put it on it as appendix, then it's also, they're going to be several wings and going to look at it and also do like a feasibility of this.
Yes, this, and it won't, it'll be a possible future option, that's how I'm envisioning it, because it's not necessarily an appendix, because we haven't wrapped up that study
I
yet.
don't know how the
Yeah.
report is.
Where do you want to
Right.
call it?
I didn't see, I was careful not to insert it into the middle of what's been done.
Right, it could
and
be a
blow up
future-
what's been done today.
A future consideration that would have its own analysis with everything else. The projections for all the other road improvements. And the other thing that we discussed when we met with Mr. Thompson is that this interchange could be a 5 to 7 year in the
Down the road,
future.
yeah.
And it's largely dependent on federal funding, correct?
Right.
Federal, state, some private funding.
Well, it's dependent, I'd say more so on finding private funding.
Private funding,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
And then that gives an impetus to really
So if
lobby
there
hard for
isn't
federal
development, this may not occur.
funding, unless the
So-
town or the county were to.
Right, so we don't want to jeopardize our immediate needs.
Right.
with a future.
No, definitely
So
not.
I
Definitely
just
not.
want to clarify.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Heather.
This isn't an either or.
Right, no, I
No,
appreciate
no, no.
that.
And I guess I would just question, so if we say, no, we're not interested at all, then we're completely shutting the door on it. If we say, yes, we can incorporate it in
It's a
for the future
It's a
discussion.
possible
Possible
option.
option.
Yeah, but
Possible
it has
option.
nothing to do with our immediate,
But it should not take
Short
place
term.
of that at-grade
Right.
Center Street extension,
It's,
because
Got it.
Rails to Trails needs to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
If I may, the at-grade intersection and signal is not really a master plan. It's something that you're looking to have happen now as a need. When you look at the Route 27 corridor study and the interchange, they're part of the corridor study into the future and a master, part of that master plan for the town. That sometimes things get built, sometimes they don't, but
Right,
again,
right.
got to have it in there in order to
Right, there's
have an
no,
opportunity for it.
so maybe I should withdraw my, what would I call it, the proposal, and we should, and rephrase it? Because
No,
it's
I don't
not,
think there was
it's not an
anything-
appendix, it's still
No,
fine?
we're
Okay.
just,
Okay.
we're
Yeah,
just going
to-
to add
to
it in there
include it
so
in the
that we
study.
can look
Okay.
at it.
All right.
and-
Yeah, no,
And
it was
I-
good.
and
So
I
it would,
still second it.
Okay.
the town council would have to pass a budget amendment to extend the contract, if you will,
Okay.
for an additional study period for the corridor study. It would go through the community forums, just like we did all of the other programs. So we would just restart the process with this specific component.
Okay. So we have a motion on the tables. Everyone got their questions answered?
I just have one other question for Heather.
Ma'am?
So, one of my big concerns with Center Street
Yes, ma'am.
is when it comes to Main Street,
Mm-hmm.
what happens?
As far as traffic
Yeah,
impact?
because, I mean, you're looking at these two roundabouts, and there's gonna be all this traffic coming from Twin Arch, and it looks fantastic, but then it's gotta come right here to Main Street, and right now, if you try to make a left-hand turn on Main
Good
Street,
luck.
you're gonna be in trouble.
Right,
Yeah, I mean,
the-
it's hard to make a right-hand turn.
Yeah, it's hard to make a right-hand turn in a Miata.
And that would be for, I would expect for any punch through, if you will, to Center Street. So whether we have the interchange or just the cut through. And there was analysis done for that in the corridor study, and I can pull out that section and send it to you.
Okay.
I don't know right off the.
Yeah, that's okay,
top of
that's
my
okay.
head.
I just wanted to know, have we crossed
Yeah, it was
that
in
bridge
the-
yet? Have we investigated that?
That is, that was part of the original scope of the corridor study, because that is a very important component. And the outcome would be listed in the future conditions report. So I can locate that and send it out to the commission.
Perfect, thank you.
And not everybody's gonna be coming into downtown anyway.
They've been talking about having Center Street opens for downtown for 30 years. So if they're not coming downtown, then don't open for Center
We're going
Street.
to be developing along Center Street.
Yeah.
And so that's where some of the traffic.
Some of the
is gonna
traffic
go.
will be in there, yeah, but, I mean, it's not a total pass-through either, to get from there to, we would hope that they would use
So
it.
if it's Center Street, it's Center Street.
To answer your
Right,
question,
but,
the 2025, when you get to 2025, which is half built out of the town, the 2 lanes coming down
Coming
Center
down.
Street, a dedicated right and a dedicated left, would satisfy that condition. When you get to the full build out, when you see all this and whatever else, other traffic, you're taking more traffic off of Park and putting it on Center Street.
Right.
At the 2040 or full build out, there's possible signalization at Main Street. But Saber Wing would have to do a little more analysis on that.
Thank you, Barney.
Sure.
I'll call for the question. There's been enough discussion.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. Let's go for it.
thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Ron. And thanks for talking to town staff. I really appreciate you doing that. Councilman Strong, would you like to go ahead and present, or it's your choice, or wait for Andrea? I mean, I don't want to keep you any longer.
Andrew's here.
I know, that's what I'm asking, if he would like to, or you want to wait till, Andrea, do you mind?
Unless you can be quick, you want me to pick up, I know it can be a lot longer.
Okay, you guys duke it out, let me know.
I don't think we're doing it out.
Good.
I think we
usually just said, sure, go for
Okay,
it.
go for it.
All right, so I'm Councilman Scott Strong, as you all know. Today, I was asked to come in front of the commission to, I guess, go over the proposed ordinance 2017-15 that is going to later, it was introduced to the council. It's being brought to your commission for comment review, and then it'll come back to the council for consideration. The high level of the ordinance is trying to address a couple things. One is clarification of what outdoor dining is. Right now, outdoor dining isn't specifically codified for some of the establishments that we have in town. So I was trying to fix the verbiage in that. So I worked with Tom to go over the legalese to ensure that it covers all of our businesses and would allow for code enforcement. The second area that it tries to touch on is enforcement purposes of that. It's been a challenge right now for a code enforcer to have any type of calls or complaints from citizens regarding businesses not operating a certain way or how they feel is in violation. The changes within this would define both for the businesses as well as the residents and the code enforcement where things would need to be enforced and where things would fall upon the individual just to, I guess, have to take into consideration and accept because if it gets passed. So that's a very high level of what's in here. I don't know if you've all had a chance to read it.
Yes.
Primarily, the main changes are going to be in Section 4 of 112-37.1 for the downtown zone. The changes here that I tried to take into consideration were for all businesses that are operating anywhere in the downtown area, so Main Street, Center Street, anywhere for that surrounding zone. We have 5 businesses right now that are restaurants that I jotted a note, there might be more, but those were the ones that I took and thought about for the moment. And so I was trying to take into consideration some of the needs that have been addressed to me from those businesses with respect to trying to cater to the patrons, trying to meet the needs of residents in the town, as well as being respectful and working with the residents in the surrounding area. So one of the problems that came to light was dedicated smoking areas. Individuals that have to smoke currently right now, in most instances, are going to be forced out onto Main Street and have to congregate on Main Street on the sidewalks or curbs. So I was trying to take that and figure out a way where individuals would be able to do that and not impact the business. The way it's written right now in the code, if people go out to smoke, it's an ingress egress. So talking to Tom, there is some wiggle room, if you will, that people coming in and out of the business after hours and being served that way could cause a conflict. And so that could be perceived by residents that they're still operating normal hours, even though somebody may be coming in and out of the business, they may go out to smoke, come back in. The flip side to that is I didn't want people to go outside and smoke and hang out and have a drink with them. And, you know, smoking, even though I don't smoke, some do. For those that did smoke, they can relate that, you know, going outside, having a cigarette and coming back in or whatever, that's one thing. But to go outside and then say, oh, there's a chair here, a table, and they sit for 30 minutes to an hour, and then they start talking to people and they get loud, and then it just becomes a problem. And that's the other extreme that we don't want to get to. So this tries to address both of those situations, allowing the give of smokers to be able to go out and do that, and the take, which is trying to help define and bound that so it's limited to certain things. Let's see what else. Service for outside. So that was another thing, is that you know, some of the businesses, if you take for example Lorenzo's or Conchetta's or Crying Johnny's, they have dining out on the sidewalk. The way it's worded right now is that all dining has to stop currently at 9 p.m. They're not allowed to serve anybody. They're supposed to break down. Well, that also is impacted by the ingress egress. Same thing with Upper Deck for their back patio, which is the main entrance. Yes, they have a entrance that comes on Main Street. A lot of people don't use that because of the big staircase. They'll come around the nice ramp and walk up that way. So that's something that I wanted to bring in front of this board to take into consideration, is that we need to kind of modify this so that we can accommodate the businesses and patrons. So,
Councilman
questions?
Strong, and Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, of course.
The suggested change that we're reviewing, is that Sunday through Thursday, we have hours of
What is
10
it?
a.m. to 10 p.m.
Is that what it is currently?
No,
No, it's
10
Sun-
to
It says 10 to
so
9,
hours of
Sunday
service
through
shall be limited
Thursday,
10 to 9, Sunday through Thursday.
and 10
So
to
that
10.
doesn't change.
Okay.
What changes
Oh.
is the 10 to
Okay, I'm sorry, on
Fridays
Friday
and
and
Saturdays,
Saturdays.
so
So the-
only on the weekends.
Okay.
So that was another,
So 10 p.m. is the cutoff that you're suggesting?
so the original cutoff that I first talked about with Tom was it was 10, but then Tom said, when we started talking about it back and forth, and that's something open for discussion, right now it's currently 9 o'clock, was that businesses right now are open till 1 p.m. So to coincide with that for
1
the
a.m.?
hours, I'm sorry?
I
1
messed
a.m.?
them up, yeah.
1 a.m.?
I'm sorry, well, 1 a.m., yes, 1 a.m., not 1 p.m.
Okay.
So to coincide with that, the thought was on weekends only, not Monday through Thursday, because I don't want, and I don't think the citizens want, businesses open till 1 a.m. on a Thursday morning or a Friday morning and have to go to work. So weekends was the consideration that I was taking in, and so I thought about expanding the hours to be comparable to the other businesses in the surrounding area, not just downtown, but I mean, you have Memories or Ileana's or whoever that are outside, that they're allowed to have open longer hours for the weekend. So what I was asking in this was to extend the hours, move it from the 9 p.m. to an 11 p.m. so that by 12 they have to shut down, and essentially they're forcing everybody out anyways, which that ingress-egress problem goes away at 1 o'clock anyways. So I was trying to tie it all together to that boundary versus at 9 o'clock they have to do something special, then we have to write special rules for, well, people are allowed to come in and out and et cetera.
So 12 to 1, this would be exclusively a get in and get out and a smoking area.
12 to
No
1 would...
TVs on, no
TV there's-
extended,
yep.
no extended stay on the patio.
No, the same rules still apply from
Right.
12 to 1 that do today. You're not allowed to have TVs out there or loud noises or anything like that. That was one of the things that was written into here too, is that people going out and smoking, they can go out and do smoking and not, what was the word Tom used? It's another word for gather. But
Congregate.
Congregation. yeah.
congregate. So basically, you can't have loud noises still. That's in here, and I think that's like 12. Use of outdoor sound amplification device. So you can't have speakers for TVs. You can't have any of that. Those are just normal things we still have.
And I'm not, as a patron, I'm not allowed to take my alcoholic beverage and walk it out onto the patio anyway, am I?
Well, so currently right now, because it's a dining area, you could. Now, something that I've talked about with the businesses is putting signage up, and I was talking with the mayor too about this, and as well as enforcement. So if signage is one thing that needs, and I have a note here, so I apologize it's not on here, but I noticed it after it was sent out. So item 14, where it says signage other than sandwich sign is prohibited in table dining area, I want signs that state that you are not allowed to take alcohol past a certain point. What this does is this allows businesses to contain the alcohol inside without actually having to actively have somebody sit there and police going in and out.
Right.
So if somebody inadvertently walks out of there, there's a sign, clear and blatant, that says you're not allowed to walk past here with alcohol, and if you do, you're kind of on your own.
But it'll say that as of a certain hour? I mean, that's what the sign
Yes.
will say, as of a
Right.
certain?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that sign, as part of the sign arrangement, would come in front of this body to ensure that the verbiage is right and go in front of the lawyer and everything like that. But that's the thought behind it, is that to have clear denotation of, here's the rules, you need to follow them, and part of entering and exiting this establishment, you agree to it. Similarly, and it's not in here right now, was trying to figure out the boundaries of where is the restaurant or bar responsible for their area. Right now, you kind of say, well, the door, but with outdoor dining, there's patios, and how far does the patio go? So that's something that I want to look at too, because in the example of Upper Deck, their patio, I was trying to bound it to the edge of the enclosed patio area, that's still their space, but once somebody gets on the ramp or they're out in the parking lot, that's public space. So
Right.
the business can't be held accountable for somebody that's out there, and that would help code enforcement to go, okay, this is unruly citizen, what's the word I'm trying to think of when somebody, disorderly conduct would be outside versus, no, this is a patron of the establishment.
Right. And Upper Deck has an exit that goes the other way up towards Park Avenue also.
They do.
So.
So it'd be bounding that box, but the thought in talking with Upper Deck was that one idea, and I think town staff might be involved in some of this too with the mayor for the concept, is looking at, they were talking about enclosing part of their patio and putting up like a door and a wall and stuff so that it could be an enclosed smoking space versus an open, which then would further help delineate the business from the outside. So, I mean, in the instance of Upper Deck, they're willing to work with us to try and make sure for them. I want to offer those same type of opportunities to Lorienzo's so that they know for their people, or Conchettas, or et cetera.
Having recently been a smoker,
Past tense.
That's good.
Good job.
I would say that if I'm not allowed to take my alcoholic drink out into that area with my cigarette,
Yeah, good one.
it's a quick smoke and I'm banging back inside.
That's what they want.
So I have a couple of questions about number 4. I don't know if there's so much questions, but I would like to see this more clearly demarcated. So when you have outdoor seating must be vacated by 1 hour after service ends, lights must be out, except for 1 hour for the purposes of trash removal and cleanup. I would end that sentence, and I would then separate out the egress, because, especially based on this letter of complaint that we received, there, I think it needs to be crystal clear.
Leslie,
because
where are you?
I'm on number 4.
No, I know you're in 4. I'm
What's
where in
that?
4?
So-
It's a big
The-
paragraph.
1, 2, 3,
There's
4,
1,
5,
2,
6,
3, 4,
7.
5, 6, line 7. Because you have
Okay.
2 accepts. You have the first accept for 1 hour for purposes of trash removal and cleanup. So the lights can be left on for trash removal and cleanup. So basically, everybody has to be out off the patio at 10 p.m. The lights can stay on for an hour.
Well, the new
only
verbiage
Sunday
is
through
11.
11.
Now it's 11 for Friday.
Oh,
and
what?
Saturday.
Friday and Saturday only, not
Oh, I still have.
Sunday through Thursday.
So it would extend
have 11.
service
Oh, we don't
to
have 11.
10.
We
Yeah,
have
he
10.
Tom has a new one, which is what I had said, that he
But I think
had ended up
that-
changing
yeah.
it to 11. So wherever it says 10, so in the first line, he had changed it to 11, from 10 a.m. to 11
So
p.m.
Sunday through Thursday, it's still till 9?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Nine.
And then
So-
what he did also, and I'm not sure if this is in your guys or not, but everywhere else there's a time from the 4th sentence down. He crossed out and just put the verbiage
Right.
to the first time so that you didn't have to keep repeating the
Right,
time and
right,
change
right.
it multiple places.
All right, so,
And it's
closes.
also changed in F.
All right, so closes at 11. By 11 p.m., everybody has to be off the patio. Lights can stay on for an hour for cleanup.
Service stops at 11, to be clear. Everybody has to be off by 12. They have from 12 to 1 to clean the patio, and at the same time, because that is an entrance and exit, they basically have from 12 to 1 for people to go through that area, and then everybody's supposed to be out by 1. They're supposed to be basically done.
So does that time proposal address the time frame of complaint in the letter? Because it's. Okay.
Well, and it also helps to, so there's
This is after that.
the specifics of the complaint, as much as I'm going to talk about it at the moment, it's partially time, it's partially noise, it's
Right.
partially individuals are out on the patio and they aren't supposed to be, which isn't really clarified in the existing code right now. So, yes, your short answer is it will address that so that code enforcement can actually do their job based on if there is a violation.
So the only reason I asked that was the letter, the complaints cite violation of what was perceived as the code.
Right.
Well, and the
But-
code
Prior
is sort of ambiguous.
Right, but
Right.
if the
Ambiguously. It
Right.
doesn't call specifics, and there's I don't
right,
wanna speak
but
about the
those
specific complaint.
new times
Uh-huh.
would, by moving the times, do you think that will meet the citizens' approval for what was deemed a problem?
I think it will allow code enforcement to execute any violations of code in a clearly defined verbiage that both residents and the businesses can adhere to. Right now, that's kind of
Right.
a
No.
nebulous area.
You're exactly correct, Scott, you're right, and this clarifies it so much.
It draws a line, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that, the businesses are looking for this. I think we need it as code enforcement,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the residents need to know as well, especially if it's only one person that's complaining about it versus an entire town. I don't want it to start snowballing. So I'd rather
Yeah, I mean,
get it done
we
now.
just have one letter that doesn't, we don't know that they're the only person impacted. But what time does it close on Sunday to Thursday?
Sunday to Thursday, still 9 o'clock is when dining shuts down.
So-
10 o'clock
Okay.
is when,
Well,
so
that's
so
when
it's
the
an
sun-
hour.
What time does the establishment close? At 11?
So it's a 1 a.m. Monday or Sunday through Thursdays?
Okay.
Okay.
So I guess then my question that I asked before
I think
would,
Lorenzo's the same way,
would
except for
then be
Mondays.
more applicable, I guess, to the Sunday through Thursday. With the
So
lights.
the reason I didn't do it Sunday through Thursday, Leslie, is because I didn't want to have people outside at 1 a.m. during the week while people are working. If you want to change that. and
No.
go off the scope, I think the businesses will take it.
I'm trying to
No.
clarify what's going to happen Sunday through Thursday.
Sunday through Thursday, it's business as usual, nothing changes. So
Okay.
even if you didn't do anything today, Sunday through Thursday still stays the same. 9 o'clock, dining has to stop outdoors.
Okay, and so they have
10
until
o'clock, they have
10
to clean up. By 11 o'clock, that's it. There can be nothing outside.
So at
That's
9
the current
o'clock,
code.
9:01, there are no orders taken for food.
Correct.
People that are out there dining are still
They
dining.
still have an
Still
hour
Okay,
to
till
dine.
10.
Okay.
Till
Okay,
10.
and then cleanup is
At
till
10
11.
o'clock,
10 to
They're out.
11.
Okay,
at 10
And then by
o'clock,
11
it
o'clock,
becomes,
tables have to be put away, chairs.
Okay.
okay.
10 o'clock, it becomes a outdoor smoking area.
Don't get excited.
Yeah.
No, 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 no.
10,
no.
10
Yeah.
10 o'clock currently right now, it could be an outdoor smoking area, but there's no definition of a smoking area. There's no guidelines for people are allowed to be out there and smoke. So it appears that people are just congregating and the business is still
Continuing on.
operating as normal.
Right.
But they can't take their alcoholic drinks out there now. They were dining before, and it's okay to have the drinks out on the patio.
There was no
There's no
current
current
rules that
rules.
stated
They can't
that
have
people
their
couldn't
alcohol out
take them out there. The businesses weren't taking them out there because 9 to 10 o'clock, service stops. That's the
Right.
key word, service. But that doesn't, as you said, I have a cigarette, hey, I'm gonna walk outside with my drink. Well, there's no signs that are saying you're not allowed to take a drink
Right.
past this point.
But you're proposing that there be a sign.
I am.
Okay.
And to make it
For
clear
any
for,
restaurant that has outdoor dining that wants to follow these guidelines, they need to make sure that they have that sign out there that clearly tells the patrons, you are not allowed to take a drink out past this point. If you do, it's on you,
okay.
because then the restaurants don't have to have a person standing at the door, a bouncer, if you will, monitoring everybody going in and out.
Right,
Because that puts an extra cost on every single business to monitor people going
right.
in and out.
And that's at 10 o'clock at night, dining cuts off at 9, or
For Sunday
serving
through
cuts
Thursday.
off at 9. Yes, Sunday through
It's,
Thursday.
it's, to clarify again for everybody, the time constraints is you have a time for dining to go to, you have a time for the patrons who were dining that they need to stop and get out, and then you have a cleanup period. Each of those currently are an hour. So Sunday to Thursday, it's 9 o'clock, dining stops, or serving stops. 10 o'clock, dining people need to be out of the way and they have an hour. This ends up extending now for Fridays and Saturdays only to a longer time frame.
So, and we believe that having patrons on that patio until midnight would not draw complaints? It would satisfy?
It may draw complaints from somebody, but it will allow us to enforce
Force the code.
complaints.
Okay.
And right
Because
now
we
we
can't
don't-
do that
right.
currently. Somebody's outside and there's kind of a gray area. What this will do is nobody's allowed to be out there after 12, and if somebody is out there and they're being loud, well then the businesses have been warned. They have it codified. The residents have a venue to say, we have a time now, whether it's 12 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever. We have something that's codified that says unequivocally they can't be out there past this making noise.
Yeah,
The
that's
same changes without the extension of time would eliminate the concerns.
It would.
Yeah.
For the signage and everything. The time constraint, the only thing, so separate out time from the signs and everything else. The times are to accommodate the businesses that have asked, hey, the weekends are when lots of people come out, they want to dine and everything, and we're having to shut down early, which kills business downtown.
Okay.
I believe from an EDC perspective, which I used to wear that hat, and a planning perspective, we want to attract businesses to downtown. And as such, this seems like it's something in line with businesses that are in the surrounding area. Still gives us control over it because it's enforceable. And will still stay in the same time constraints as everything else.
I have a question about number 8.
8. I didn't change 8.
Oh, you said something about there was going to be clarity about making the business owners responsible for
This clearly
infractions.
says, based on the rules, it's enforceable. Because we
But
now
what-
have rules in 4 that say they're not allowed to do
What's
so.
the enforcement? I mean, what's the
Violations. Yeah.
owner shall be responsible? What happens?
You would have to, I'll briefly look at Heather if she knows, because I don't know what the enforcement, the fineage is or anything like that. That's
Okay.
not my department.
Okay, okay. So it's just whatever.
I help
Yeah.
write laws and the mayor enforces them.
Okay, so
along
it's
with
just the
town
same
staff.
as whatever it was.
It's a
It's the only thing
municipal- it's a
underlines what
zoning
he's changing.
violation.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's a zoning violation, and that would result in, if my memory serves me correct, $100. It's a $100 infraction.
Okay.
Mhm.
Each
Okay.
time.
I was just curious.
Okay. Sorry, I
So-
briefly had something
In your eye.
float into my eye.
So the idea is, right, just to read this, and next time around we're voting on it, Heather?
Yeah, but what I would like to clarify, Councilman Strong, you are now requesting that the Friday and Saturday timeframe be considered 11 PM with 11 PM for service
To stop.
To stop.
Yep.
And then the area must be vacated by midnight.
Yep.
And then to allow the cleanup time period to occur from midnight to 1.
Which is basically when they're getting ready to shut down and
Okay.
force everybody
And
out.
that
That way the
is-
whole business by 1 o'clock shuts down and there should be no more noise after 1 AM anyways.
Okay, and that's the language that you would like the planning commission to consider
Yes, if you
rather
change the
than
10 o'clock that's on your thing
Okay.
for the Friday and Saturday to 11, that was
Because
what I was
this
proposing.
is what was introduced.
Yes, 9 o'clock was
Okay.
the original time, that's the current code at the moment.
And it's my concern is already in here. Number 10 says alcoholic beverages may be served in outdoor dining areas only in conjunction with the service of food and meals.
Correct.
So
They can't
that
just have
where-
a bar sitting outside
Yeah,
and
so
serving
where
drinks.
I'm worried that there's some place for the smokers to go at 10 o'clock at night. They can't be served alcohol out there anyways because there's no
Food
meals
stopped.
being served.
And in the signage also, councilman would end up taking care of that they can't take their drinks outside after a
Right.
certain point anyways.
Yeah. Well, they can't currently.
Well,
They can't be served and they
Right.
can't carry.
those two.
And this is just for the downtown zone. This would not affect memories or.
Right.
They are already allowed to end up having that.
They have-
So they're
have-
under different rules where they already
Right.
have dining and the same things,
Well,
and
they don't
this
have the
makes it.
proximity to residential.
Right.
Right,
Right.
so,
Right.
yeah, I just wanted to clarify
Yep, this,
that.
this makes it more, similar to the other businesses that are outside of the downtown zone. Yes, ma'am.
I agree with the signage, and it should be there. However, I don't want the signage to take place of the fact that's being a previous restaurant owner myself. You have to monitor that outside. You just can't, like if, you know, hopefully the management or an owner is also policing that. They don't have to sit there, but they have to make sure that everybody's abiding by that. You just can't put the sign up and hope everybody reads it and abides
And that
by
the
it.
town, their staff are also
Yes.
aware
Yeah,
and
and
enforcing.
I don't think with staff cleaning up and everything like that, that they would be aware of it. I don't think it's just a blind, oh, I put a sign up and I can forget about it. Everybody should follow it. I mean, people are still gonna be,
Well, you'd be surprised.
well,
I
I could
know.
be,
Why would you think
but
that they would follow
restaurants will be out, their employees will be out there cleaning up, patrons will be
But that's
leaving,
the
et cetera.
second hour, right, that they're cleaning up? The
second-
first hour
the
is they're
first hour
finishing
time
eating.
frame From
And the
11 to
second-
12. 11
people are
food stops,
finishing
12
eating.
o'clock, they basically finish and everything needs
Right,
to
and
be
then
done by
after
12.
that, they're cleaning up.
After
the
12
following
o'clock,
hour.
there shouldn't be anybody out there with drinks unless it's
No,
a
they're cleaning
a
up
bar
in that
back
last
cleaning it
hour.
up.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I think just what Roxanne was saying is occasionally somebody needs to go out and see what's going on. I mean,
People
Oh, yeah.
will do what you inspect, not what you expect.
That's good. That summarize it.
Yeah, that's a good,
That's-
a good truth.
It's a giant, it's one of those giant food
So,
trucks.
so to reiterate, the one change was, proposed was 11 for Friday, Saturday for
Yeah.
the time. And the other one is in 14. I want to make sure that Tom ends up putting words in there for no drinks past this point signage. Because it's not in there. The way, when I read 14, I was like, well, that basically says no signs can be out there. And I said, I don't agree with that. So I need to fix 14 still
Okay.
for the sign part.
And I would just reiterate that I think some clarity in the, as you said, the very long paragraph that could be subdivided, perhaps.
Do you want to just, Scott, would you be amenable to Leslie just emailing to Tom your suggestions on how to break up the paragraph?
Copy Scott on
She,
it.
Yeah.
you can propose breaking it up. I mean, Tom put it into legalese, so I trust Tom when it comes to this is how the code needs to be written. Got it, but
Alright.
the intent of the code is there.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Heather helps now with all the whereases.
Any other questions?
No, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time out.
Thanks, Scott.
No problem.
So we'll put this back on the October agenda, okay?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Councilman Strong.
Yep. And then realize after the.
Did you want to say anything? I can't remember names. I don't know names.
Jamie,
Yeah.
sorry.
Jamie, did you want to say
I
anything?
didn't know if you had any questions for me yet. I
You
mean,
got, come up here. I know.
I was hiding in the back, but I didn't have to do that. But if you had any questions for me, that's why I was here. I'm one of the owners of the upper deck. My husband and I own the deck. And the way things are written, it is kind of confusing at times. We have received a call from a neighbor at 9 o'clock screaming at my employees saying there should be nobody out there. It clearly says 9 o'clock, where we're saying, well, it says 9 o'clock for service. We still have to clean everything up out there. And as far as, monitoring and things like that, I can only speak for my bar. My entire staff knows after 10 o'clock, nobody can be out there. Our TVs come in, we have tiki lights, we have hanging lights, everything goes off at 10 o'clock. A majority of my staff does still smoke, so they do have to go outside. Every time they smoke outside, they're monitoring outside as well. So I can't have a bouncer. I don't want a bouncer. I don't want somebody regulating. I think that's part of what makes us a little bit different, and we are still a downtown bars. I don't want somebody stationed there and being intimidating and things like that. But locally, my husband and I are there very often. My nephew is a supervisor there. We have another supervisor, Kelly, that's there 35, 40 hours a week. Again, all my kitchen staff, our kitchen closes at 11 o'clock, so I have kitchen staff there till 11 o'clock at night. Hence the reason we need cleanup, because they do need to do trash before they leave. But as far as right now, even now, 9 o'clock, we're serving, 10 o'clock, everything is done.
Right.
Even our cleanup is pretty much done by 10 o'clock, except for the kitchen, who is still taking trash and stuff out. So, do you have any questions?
So,
No.
Jamie, while I think it's very reasonable to have folks out there in the weekend hours from 11 to 12, in your experience, do you think that you will get any residential complaints with that midnight, having patrons on the patio at midnight, even though it is proposed new ordinance? I mean, do you see you getting complaints even though it is a change in code?
I can see us getting a complaint from the same person that has complained before. We have three residential houses right next door to us, and I've never had a complaint from them. Where the complaint is coming from is from our very far back parking lot. And there are other residents that have some 21-year-olds that are out on their patios at 1 o'clock in the morning that I feel sometimes we might get, oh, it's coming from the upper deck, where it's not coming from the upper deck. And I think that's why it needs to be clear. And I think once it's clear, it'll be better for the one complaint the one person we're getting a complaint from. I think if it was this huge deal, I think we'd be getting a complaint from the person that we actually share bushes with.
Okay.
That we're
Yeah, I
not-
just wanted to make sure that if the ordinance was changed, that you still were not getting hassled, even though you were within the restrictions of the ordinance.
And I think we're following the ordinance at this point to what we believe. We cut off service at 9 and everybody vacates by 10. Yes, it's a different smoking and this is a whole other thing. But I think we already follow it, and there is that one complaint from that one neighbor. I don't know if he would still complain if the time changed or not.
Well, if it was, I mean, if it was code, that would,
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the code.
Some of the stuff, again, that they're trying, I'll talk about that so the mic pick it up, but some of the stuff that they're looking to help rectify as well is that patio area of trying to enclose part of it
Yeah,
off, so that smokers being in there, once you have a wall there or doors or something, it's going to cut down on.
Cut down.
on
Right, that's true.
Yes.
Right, well, that would be,
And
yeah.
I think that's part of
That'd
the
be a
problem too,
good
is if
solution.
smokers go outside right now, somebody may have a conversation, they're being loud.
Mhm.
It needs to be defined for them, this is what smokers can do and not do, it needs to be defined for the residents, this is what they're allowed to do. And also it helps code enforcement that if it's 21-year-olds or whoever being
Right.
noisy on the outside, they can
Who
look
we
and
share a
go,
parking
this
lot
is
with.
this house versus it's a business.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other
Thank you.
questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Andrea, thank you so much for being so patient with us. Next time, we will know not to switch your times or something like that. We owe you big time.
Wow. So I just wanted to let you know that we have pre-tour coming up. So I believe, Heather, you're coming from...
Actually, engineering staff will be
I'm so
attending.
sorry. The Rachel will be coming for pre-tour, which is when SHA comes to the county and gives us kind of a breakdown of funding that's going to be available for the county and breaks it down kind of by project and things of that nature. So then they later on, I think next month, they'll have tour, which is when they invite all of the elected officials out to go out for a driving tour or something like that with SHA. So I don't know much about that because I'm not elected, so I don't get the fancy treatment. So, excuse me. We're still working on the recodification of our code, so that's something new for us, and we're still going to be going on this probably for the next year and a half. I would assume that we're doing. Want to let everyone know also that I have given my 2 weeks at the county, and so my last day is October 4th. And so Nokomis Ford is going to be my replacement. So she is fantastic.
Nobody can replace you.
Right, we're going to
Thank
miss
you.
you.
I
She will
appreciate
be
it.
the
I'm
new
sorry.
liaison.
I'm going to Anne Arundel County. So it will definitely be different. But so I just wanted to come tonight. I really had very little to, so I guess I could have gone before Scott, but it's okay. I didn't really have anything, but I wanted to tell you
Well,
in
thank
person.
you.
That's that. Is there any questions?
Yeah,
So
I
you
got-
can move my time whenever you feel like it in the future. It's really okay.
Won't impact you.
I got a question, just trying to get a frame of reference. How old's your baby now?
He is 3.
Wow.
Yeah, I have been the liaison.
You know, it seems like it was yesterday.
Yep.
9.5 years I have been the liaison
Wow.
for Mt.Airy. So,
And I've been on planning 12 years, so.
yeah. So, well, thank you so much.
Well, we're going to miss you.
Good
And,
luck.
and wish best of luck. I know you'll be successful in Anne Arundel County. Carroll County's loss. Okay, so under unfinished business, we have sign ordinance draft, temporary signs. Leslie, you want to go for that one? Or Heather, you want?
Sign stuff.
Well, yeah, so calling Leslie the sign queen. Heather, so I heard it was a great meeting.
That was a productive discussion.
I heard.
I'm stalling because I have, my draft has gotten intermixed with all the other papers, so hang on a second.
Yeah, so we're,
So, what I hopefully accomplished, was taking the discussions from the August 10th and August 2nd work sessions, with respect to temporary signs, and I, put some verbiage for consideration, for draft language that would meet the outcome of the discussions. So I didn't know, well, I'm gonna let everybody find theirs too, because I feel like we should color code, you know?
Yeah,
Like
that,
instead of
like-
having it, like maybe,
Like,
maybe I get
this
like
is the-
different color stock or
This
something.
is the history I have of the sign ordinance. I mean,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is the condensed version as it's gone peeled away.
I know, I think ours is kinda equal, yeah.
I'm afraid to throw in it.
I know, so am I.
So,
The stack at home gets higher and
This
higher.
is 2016, 2017.
Yes.
So,
So we went through everything, just because, I'm sorry, I was too
Yeah,
busy being
no.
sick. So we went through you guys went through everything, and the whole thing, right? So.
Yeah, we went through,
Yeah, that's,
and
this is
we
October
used
16.
These are my notes.
the best practices in regulating temporary signs. And I did, my memo did outline that I took the liberty of adding, you know, some exceptions. We had talked about, you know, briefly, and it might have been in years past, that we wanted to make certain to clarify that our, you know, sign regulations didn't apply to governmental signs, warning signs, you know, flags. So I did include a section on exceptions. But the memorandum that was included with that sort of is a guide to the language that I crafted. Now, this hasn't been put in front of the town attorney.
Right.
For the content, you know, to make sure that passes that content neutrality test. But I just wanted to make sure that the language that I've proposed captures the intent of the Planning Commission with respect to temporary signage.
Okay. Does anyone want to chime in? Because you're talking about this memo that was dated September 18th, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one, guys.
Yeah. And then everybody has a copy of the ordinance, or the draft regulations.
Right. That's also dated September 18th. It says
Yes.
draft temporary sign ordinance.
This captures our discussion and our decisions.
On page 5 of 9, where we have the real estate yard sale and directional signs, we didn't discuss it, but,
Is there a change that you would like to propose?
well,
That we could discuss tonight?
I think there should be a limit as to how many you can have on each corner. There shouldn't be
remember that
3 or 4 the same.
Oh, yes, I remember that one. When there were, how many on each,
Yeah.
at that one instant?
But I don't know,
I thought we
I don't know that we talked, I mean, we talked about it at one time, but I don't know.
We didn't
talked
talk about it at the
We
recent.
didn't talk about it at the meeting.
Yeah, at the recent workshop.
But I'm concerned about, we can limit, right, the number of signs on the corners?
Yeah, you can limit numbers because it's not
Yeah.
I'm
content.
asking
It's
how, because of
content.
that
neut-
sign ordinance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's time, place, and.
Time, place, and manner, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think you should have any more than one sign on the corner.
Who needs 5 signs as you come down the street? Remember, there were 5 signs this way, 5 signs that
Yeah.
way? It was just like
I mean-
proliferate of signs.
New homes do that. New home builders do it all the time. But especially when you have maybe more than one house doing an open house, you're gonna have more than one sign there anyway. Because there might be 2 or 3 signs, because there's 2 or 3 different companies that are advertising. So I don't think there should be, for your open house, there should be more than one directional open house or open house sign per corner. And I
Per
don't think.
intersection, perhaps?
Yeah, per intersection or per corner. And I don't think that they should have, they can have balloons at the house, but I'm leery of putting the balloons at the intersections because of the site restrictions.
Right. We
Okay.
actually have no balloons anyway as signs, no balloons.
Yeah, but those are the big
Yeah.
balloon signs. I'm
Yeah.
talking about attaching.
Yeah, I don't think that.
But it's gonna be a movement issue, so.
It is,
Mhm.
it is, and I don't think,
Sign shall not.
Okay, so can we add that, Heather, somehow? In the new number 11?
or is it kind of already in there and I'm not seeing it?
No, there's no limit, I'm just reading the language, trying to, what if we were to say, it's the third sentence, so signs shall not exceed, or like the number of signs shall not exceed 1 per intersection.
Right.
That's what I was thinking.
Works.
Yep.
But then I'll say, okay, so there's 2 sides, so can I put a sign on each side?
Well, per intersection
Is the whole
is
four.
the
Four.
whole. So corner,
Okay.
you would have 4 corners, but
For
an
intersection.
intersection is an intersection.
Okay.
So would,
And so signs shall not exceed 1 per intersection and shall not be attached to utility poles, traffic controls, or traffic signal poles.
So does real estate / yard sale direction signs, so does that cover, okay, so it covers the direction signs, but does it cover open house? I guess.
Well,
it is
generally, you
considered
put
direction.
directional, I mean, there are some agents that put directional signs for
just
houses for
sales.
sale.
I've seen a
all the-
lot of
and
those
they
lately.
And they
Yeah.
stay up all the
Yeah,
time.
Yeah.
That sign is different than an open house sign, so I guess you have to delineate what you're talking about.
So on page 1, if we look at page 1 of 9, and then section A3, that governs actual, like, real estate signs advertising the sale or lease.
On the premise.
On the premises. So I would consider anything, what I would interpret that to mean is that any, like oops, I lost my page here. So the other real estate yard sale direction signs to include an open house.
Okay.
Because it's not it's not advertising or an on-premise advertisement.
Okay, all right.
Anything else?
And for the window signage, on the same page 5 of 9, clarified that, basically, and Councilman Hushhour, this was sort of what we're not regulating it, so how do we regulate that it's on the interior? So, we just added so it was that, they're not regulated, but we're regulating them. So they're permitted as long as they're affixed to the interior of the windows or glass surface. And I did add the window signs for businesses located in Mt.Airy's historic downtown shall comply with the design guidelines, and they were legislatively adopted. And I wanted to put that in there because we have not yet gone through the downtown zone signage regulations. So I wanted to put that in there because this will likely be adopted before we work on or adopt the downtown zone. So I didn't want there to be any question that window signage was okay for placement with no restrictions in the downtown zone.
I've got a question about window signage too. We're saying it's okay if the signage is affixed on the inside.
Yes.
Are we saying it doesn't matter what the material is? Because when we had Ben Gullicky here speaking to us, what he made a point to make us understand was they went to the expense of a certain type of material, which basically has a safety factor to it. You can see more if you're inside looking out, but it's somewhat screened looking from outside looking in, right? So that's different than if it's simply, a beer sign or alcohol or
The
wine
discussion
or
we
whatever.
had-
I think we
That-
decided, we went through the whole
Yeah.
discussion, and we just decided we're not gonna
We're just-
we're not gonna regulate it.
It can be
Yep.
paper,
When we came out-
That,
plastic,
we went through the
I just
whole
wanna be sure.
thing, yeah,
I
we
just
went through the
wanna
whole
be sure.
thing, and
burlap,
Because there's a big
handwritten.
difference.
you're right, and some of
Sequins.
it might not be very nice, but we just decided that,
I think the biggest rub
Yeah.
was 8.5 by 11
Yeah.
posters. Remember,
8.5 by 11
saying that
papers.
everything else seemed tolerable except these little 8.5 by
Right,
11
right.
pieces
But
of
for
paper
whatever
that were
reason,
posted
we
up. But
decided,
then,
like, I
I
can't
mean,
even-
what are they
Up
going
there.
to,
Yep.
9 by 12? I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
So that is how we
Yeah,
came
that was
up
the-
with that, yeah,
We'll
yeah.
see.
Or the only regulation is that they have to be placed on the interior of an actual window.
Well, this is
So,
such an improvement, so.
And then, on page 7 of 9, and my apologies if you guys didn't need to go through this, but, the pole banners, remember we had talked about the shopping center pole banners? I wanted to make sure that you were comfortable with, the language that I had proposed, for that. So we have in there that they may only be attached to parking lot poles on private property, so basically our shopping centers, with an approved site development plan. And that's how we, at the end of our discussion, we determined that we would handle those. And so the planning commission may authorize a maximum area per banner of up to 10 square feet. It could be smaller, but it's probably like 5 feet, you know, in height, which seems really tall until you're on a 25-foot ban or light pole, with a limit of 2 banners per pole. And then I set some minimum clearance so we don't have impacts for, you know, people walking or vehicles or what have you. There is one follow-up item I need to do for this. I want to work with the town attorney for some language to ensure that the shopping centers that currently have these pole banners know that, you know, they don't have to come in for a site plan. So if they're in existence, they're grandfathered, yeah.
Okay.
I have a question, and maybe it's in here and I'm not seeing it. Didn't we talk about or decide that there would be a limit of the amount per X number? So like that every single pole in the
Well,
shopping
and-
center didn't have a,
And we left that to, that would be
part of the site plan?
part of the
Oh,
site
right,
plan,
okay,
because each
okay.
site's
Right,
different.
okay, all right.
So,
Okay, yep, good.
yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else, Heather?
And the prohibited signs and devices, that's important because we kept most of the ones, except for handwritten. The projected image signs we added, balloons and inflatable signs. Inflatable, took the place of the air animated graphics, because that was a new term, but I think that the inflatable, that's the dancy guy.
That makes it clearer.
So we added that, and then portable signs and off-site signs we had talked about. And I did include some definitions, and these will be scrutinized by the town attorney as well. But those are key to the ordinance update.
Okay.
And then, of course, the exemptions.
Councilman Hushaw, you have something to add?
Just wondering, under the exceptions or exemptions, where would something like a 5K banner, any sort of a parks event banner, should that be under the exemption area, or is that just being treated like regular signage?
Well, that would be a
Temporary
banner.
signage.
That would be under, hold on, page 4B, temporary, wait a minute, page 4, and then
Temporary
item
event?
B, temporary event signs. And that language is currently, so that's in there. So we didn't do anything with that. So you can keep doing what you're doing. Human signs. We had a long, I'm sorry, I'm bebopping around. We had,
Make sure we're awake.
I just started from where Roxanne started. So, page 3, if we can go back to page 3, I'm sorry. So we broke out, or my proposal is that we break out the different types of temporary business signs. So we have the on-premise banner signs, the feather flag signs, which I believe matched the conversations, and the pennants. And sponsorship signs, we talked about that. That's new for the ordinance. And then, so the human signs, one of the things that Dr. O'Brien mentioned during the work session is that he was, he brought up the concern about state highway and to take into account state highway regulations. So I went on their regulations, and they're not very specific as to the type of signage, but a permit is required. So I thought the approach of just stating that, if any sign, whether it be human, banner, like a temporary bandit type sign, that a permit from the state highway was needed and it needs to comply with the state highway, rules, applicable outdoor advertising rules and regulations as mandated. So it covers if they have a change in the regulations, because I've learned this along the way. That you want to recite, a section.
right.
You don't want to comply with the rules and regulations at that time because they change.
Right, so just referring to
So-
them, yeah.
So that was my approach to that.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Um,
Gosh, I can almost see something ending. I know.
I know we talked about it and we did not make a decision on the one business that can't have a sign. It was when we were talking about feather signs as permanent rather than temporary. And there was brief discussion of a special exception or something when you have absolutely no other alternative to have a sign. And I don't know. We didn't have any agreement on that.
Right.
But I'm just kind of throwing that out there again.
So right now, it's still just a temporary.
Yeah, it's only
Yeah.
temporary.
Right, and that's what my notes said, that,
we're only
feather
dealing with
flags
temporary.
were still temporary, and they,
But at least they're some.
Mm-hmm, okay, I mean, it's better than nothing.
Yeah, for now.
Well,
Yeah,
we'll
but I
find
keep
out.
forgetting, we're only dealing with temporary anyway, so we're not on to the
Right.
permanent.
My
Yeah,
mistake.
which is,
Right.
right, which is when we would actually discuss special exceptions, would be the more permanent. So, all right,
yes, sir.
scratch that.
I'm just waiting. Can I jump back to 4B,
All right, what,
4 of 9?
thank you, yeah, that helps me. Yes. And-
Sponsorship signs, they must be visible only to the participants or spectators at the facility by placing the sign to face the facility, field, or complex. Are we trying to say that they must face inside of the field of play? What I see as the spectator is the white on the back.
Right, when you're turning on like the
Okay, I
carnival
didn't-
grounds.
Just throwing some language out
I
there, we
didn't
can
spend-
reject
I
it.
didn't spend $1,000 for the kids that are playing to see it. For the parents sitting on the other side of the fence is what I want.
Yeah.
Well, we can strike B. It was
Okay,
just,
I'm just-
sometimes I just throw stuff in there.
I'm just asking,
Just to
you know?
see if.
See if we're awake.
I
Wait a minute,
like that.
wait, it's tricky.
Well, no,
That's
I
the way
mean,
it's written,
sometimes
it
we
is.
don't know what we want until we know what we don't want.
Okay.
So-
Okay,
I'm
That's right.
confused because I interpret this as they're putting it up so that, yeah, the spectators are gonna see it.
I am too.
By
It's
placing
right.
the sign to face the facility, the field, or the complex. I
Right,
want it to face the spectators.
right, what it says right there, they must be visible only to the participants or spectators at
Okay,
the facility.
but then when I turn on the 27 and they have the cute little blue sign to talk about something, bulldogs or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm not a spectator, am I? I'm just driving
You're
on
just gonna see
27.
the back of the banner.
So I see the white, while the blue bulldog thing would be on the other side where the
People
kids are playing.
sitting there watching the game are gonna see the signs. This is on the premise,
Well,
this
and
is
it's
an
also-
off
I don't
premise.
even think you need that to be
Okay.
there.
Yeah, I think it's,
When it's also, it's independent, that could work for advertising depending on how your field
Right.
is laid out.
What you, and Roxanne, what you're seeing is a sign up. And that really ought to come down because they're asking you to sign up for football, and football's been going on since Labor Day.
Right, that doesn't
It's
need
gonna
to
be a
be
good
there,
season.
but-
And that's what, that's
Right.
what.
I think the signs, I think the signs face the directions in which they're intended to
Right.
face.
To face
Right.
now,
But I mean,
so-
which, if anything, if that is what is understood, it probably could just come out. I mean, if you're at the Frederick Keys Stadium and all the sponsors are on the back home run wall, well, they're not going to face the other way, right?
You
So
see
they
them
want
drive down 70, but
Yeah,
you're
he's
not
right.
seeing.
Right.
Right.
So I mean,
Right.
so I think if you leave it up to the people hanging them, I mean, if you're down at Watkins and they're in the park, I mean,
Right.
I don't think it's confusing to the sponsors or the people hanging the signs which direction they should go. And if I can't think of an instance where there's a problem where they would be facing a direction where they're undesirable. So maybe we just pull it out.
And I think A clarifies that
Yeah.
it needs to be part of the,
Part of the facility.
yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And that's, you know, most of the guys that sponsor baseball or whatever, you know, they are
So we're gonna
targeting the
take out
parents of
B.
the facility.
Yes.
Look what I did, you know, I'm helping your kid play ball.
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
But I think B serves no purpose
okay. It's gone.
other than to confuse A.
Page 4?
There's A,
Right
there's
there.
A, oh, okay.
Does everyone
Oh,
agree?
we have two Bs. Wait,
Everyone,
We have
Yeah.
4, small a, small b, then we have 5, then we have b.
oh yeah, well, okay. I see your point.
All right,
So Heather, we okay with
so we
taking?
get rid,
I'll get my ABCs right. When,
No, it's,
Is it-
no, I was just trying to find out. what
Heather,
we
I'm
were.
still working on right and left, okay? So I haven't got that down.
oh, because A, well, no, because we start with an F. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we're scratching B? Are we-
Yeah,
are we-
yes.
Scratching,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, anything else?
Scratching 4B. We're adding, pole banners are good.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Going once, going twice. I see we're all failing fast. Okay, Heather, so could you make those changes and could you go ahead and send it on to,
Gonna send it to Tom.
yippee?
And then unless there are a major.
Please no.
Unless there, so what I would ask is, if I'm authorized, send this to Tom.
Mhm.
And unless there are major, changes that we have to revise so that we are compliant with content neutral, may I forward
Please.
this?
Yes.
Put little wings on it, fly it, okay?
So perhaps make a motion to allow me, because what we would be doing is, conditioned upon the town attorney review, forward this to the town council for introduction and setting a public hearing, because it's a zoning. So I don't know if you're ready for that?
Yes, but I
Yeah,
don't know how
okay.
to say it.
Okay, so somebody could make a
All
motion.
right, I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion,
Okay, I'll make a motion.
but you have to tell me what.
Okay, so, you make a motion,
I'm making a motion, we got that part. To,
to forward.
just
the-
listen to what she says.
To forward the draft temporary signs ordinance conditioned upon, sufficient legal review to ensure compliance with content neutrality, for further, for forwarding to the town council for introduction and setting of the public hearing.
Boy, I'm smart.
I second.
Okay.
Did somebody write that down? Because we're gonna need that for the minutes.
It sounded really
It sounded
good.
really great. It's on the recording.
So, well, we'll just replay that.
Okay, we're like- okay, so it was seconded by Roxanne. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Okay, all right.
Great motion.
That was a great motion.
Good job, Lindy.
Okay, so now, next was MXD ordinance. So we had the public hearing comments, so I guess the only person, Scott, were you there?
Scott's
Oh,
gone.
no, this Scott.
Oh.
Yeah,
No, this Scott.
everybody was there.
I was
Yeah,
there.
we
Oh,
were there.
They
Was
were
Judy?
there, I was there, Patty was there, and Judy was not there.
Right.
Scott was not there.
Okay, that's
I
what.
think Judy was the only one who was there.
Yeah, pink pants.
Yeah, you were there.
My husband was sitting right behind me. I didn't even know.
I came in while you were closing.
Oh,
your
okay.
statement. That's. I was
Okay.
right- I
And
was-
Carl went.
Yeah, right. When Carl was there, and so it was,
You
I
were
know,
just finishing
Later,
up.
of course.
there were a lot of people there, but I know, say, my husband was sitting right behind me. I had no clue. I walked out right behind him.
Yeah, after you spoke, I was.
I know, it's odd. So, okay, so we had comments, and Heather, and there's nothing here, by the way, because it was really kind of a discussion about, around ourselves, and knowing that we have the RFP for the downtown zone, and we have a lot of things going around. So it was a thought, and wanted to bring this out, was that we just kind of put this aside. We will look at the downtown master plan RFPs that are coming through, and I just kind of want to get some head nodding, not before we're exhausted, but that we kind of agree that we've got still other things to look at. I don't know how to
I
put
think
it.
the thing is that, and actually Bill pointed this out the other day, is that the RFP for the downtown master plan actually includes the Center Street corridor and includes opportunities for mixed-use development. So I think at a minimum, we need to find out what is the vision and I don't know, is that Monica, or I don't know who actually drafted the RFP,
think
but sort of
Monica.
like, what's the vision that the town has, and shouldn't we be incorporating this somehow? You know, because it's like integrated or something.
Can I have just a moment?
Of course.
Okay, what we're asking the town council to do is have the conversation. I want to have the conversation that we're planning to have about this in case somebody has some great revelation that they want to add to the CMXD ordinance. Okay, so that we can get that comment out of the town council. And then we're going to try to table this for somewhere of a year. Would that be a good estimate? Try to table it until we get a return on the downtown master plan, because the downtown master plan is supposed to include this information anyways, about the Center Street corridor and what MXD is gonna look like.
So sorry, Bob, were you just saying that that's what you at town council discussed?
No,
And that-
that's not
okay,
what,
okay,
that's not
sorry.
what I at town
Okay.
council discussed. Mr. Butts talked to me the other day.
Oh, okay.
And we thought that that was probably the best move to make, is that
What you realize when you go back and really dig into this downtown master plan is it's a very solid document. It's very comprehensive. And we've known for some time that there were a number of challenges when it comes to our downtown. This RFP is written in such a way that you're dealing with parking, you're dealing with a constrained topography, you're dealing with historic structures like over there. You're dealing with the extension of a Center Street corridor, because the idea was, we love the downtown, we love the idea of the combination of retail, office space, and some residential. We would love to see a bit more of that. We would like to see a complement, an extension of that. That really is the genus of a Center Street extension and the whole idea behind MXD. It's grounded in what is complementary to our downtown, what would be an extension of it, as opposed to something that's very, very different and is not complementary and would be competitive. That's what's so important about giving this the priority in seeing how we develop it.
And this
the
document that he's
feedback.
putting his hand on, he's going to be sending out to all of us, so.
You're talking about the
What
RFP?
document
is this?
We
The
should already all
RFP?
have
Oh, I'm
it.
sorry.
I mean, we
No,
should
sorry.
all have it. It's the
Yeah, we
downtown
should,
master
but
plan RFP.
It's really valuable to go back and look at it in terms of how it sets the
So this
stage
guy.
for MXD.
Yeah. But I guess
Yeah.
I would just back up. I kind of two sides to it. The one is that in a way, when we started MXD, it wasn't just, it wasn't just like the Beck property east and west. We started from, I believe it was Park Avenue along 27. Now what it's kind of morphed into or
we've
been,
been captured
know,
by that.
it's been
by those
narrowed.
limits.
Yeah, into more with the Beck, I guess partly because of the developer interest. But that said, I mean, it is kind of interesting when you look at this RFP that it does really clearly state under the Center Street corridor that this is a big part of what is supposed to be discussed or
Page 5.
Sure.
figured out as part of the downtown master plan, which is what I guess when I was learned of this, or learned to go back and look at this recently. So my first curiosity is, well, who drafted this RFP and what were they thinking? What was the thought, that went into this? And was that the thought that this was really that the Center Street corridor and the Beck property west side would be integrated into this downtown master plan?
Right, well, the downtown area, the scope, it was important, I believe, to this body,
Right.
that it include that Center Street corridor.
Right.
So that is certainly why it's included in that, because, if the idea is that when we're considering the downtown, that Center Street connection is, integral to the future development.
Right.
Because, there's been comments that the existing area for the downtown doesn't have a critical mass, to flourish and to
Right.
be everything that, I think everybody envisions it to be. So Center Street is certainly a very large component to it. So it sounds like there's been some discussions that, you know, the outcome of the downtown master plan may prove helpful in further refining the direction of the MXD ordinance. Would that be a correct summary?
That would be for me, but.
I mean, my thing is, could there be some type of, not conflict, but is it, you know, if the MXD continues on and is passed as an ordinance, and then we have these consultants come in and it's like, oh, you shouldn't do it that way, or I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that kind
So
of.
the downtown master plan, you know, it should be a consideration
Well,
before
they
closing up.
Yeah,
the
it seems like there should
Work
be.
in concert with
integ-
one another,
Integrated.
integrated.
With each other.
And I think it'll give a better hope and a better vision of overall what we're looking to find.
There's a critical link here. The downtown area and the downtown zone, you know, if you see that in relation to what we're trying to envision in terms of an appropriate scale and size of mixture for MXD, then it's relative. It gives us something to relate that to. It gives us, as opposed to just
Throwing it out there.
creating from ground zero and not having a frame of reference.
I would agree.
I think the other night, I'm not sure if it was at the planning commission meeting or the town council meeting, Larry, you asked several times, what happens if we pass the Rob Scranton version of MXD and not our own MXD ordinance? What happens? I don't know. But, you know, I'm asking, do you want this pulled back from the town council? Is that something we can do?
I mean, the planning commission could certainly recommend to the town council that the MXD should be tabled until the completion of the downtown master plan study is done. I mean, that's a recommendation.
Okay.
It's up to the town council to, you know.
What do you think the timeline would be for the downtown master plan?
You know, I honestly, I would say a year,
Yeah, I
at
think-
least. You know, this plan it's not, you know, meant to be something that we just put a check
Yeah,
box
right.
in.
Yeah, yeah.
It's something, you know, that we envision, community, you know, community outreach, citizen outreach, you know, steering committee. I would say every bit of a year.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be shocked if we're sitting here 18 months and it's still not done.
And what, if it
well-
gets tabled for a year,
Yeah.
I mean, it has to, it'll come back up in a year, it has to. So if you're looking at a year,
Well,
then make it a year. If you're looking at 18 months, let's make it 18
we,
months.
Well,
we
the
don't
process
know.
is the
We-
process.
With
We can't-
respect,
we don't know.
Right.
because if you set a year and say it's 13 months,
Right.
then we're gonna be back in the same situation that we are right now.
Right.
Where, and maybe it might be a little bit more eyes wide open.
Yep.
But I would just say until the completion of the downtown master plan, if that is the goal that you're trying to reach.
And as long as there's a defining moment when it comes back up.
I understand your
you're-
concern
you're-
for certain.
You're allowed to table it.
Councilman Husher, want to add anything?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, first of all, thanks for all your work on putting MXD together in that quick time frame that I think the mayor sicked you on 60 days. So y'all did real good getting that through. MXD Light, which is not a favorite term of some people, but as a special exception, did pass through the council, which means that if somebody wants to come and look at the Beck property, it's available on community commercial, and that's why I kept saying, what happens if this goes and the other one doesn't? I do agree with the delay on MXD as a zone, because I have a lot of questions, and I think you do too, about those percentages, because once you break down residential and commercial a percentage, then you got to start looking at that residential component, and you actually need to figure out what percentage of apartments, single-family homes, condos. I mean, it breaks down further. It's almost monumental. I almost wonder if it can even be done suitably. But MXD Light does open a window, so we haven't killed the Beck property.
Right.
It's available, it's out there. But anyway, thanks, that was my only thing.
Thank you.
Well, it's an MXD light, by the way, it really means MXD Community Commercial Special Exception.
Yes, it's a text amendment. Aren't there percentages in there, Heather? You and I asked you about this the other day.
Yes, it's
There are
it's the
percentages in there. There are.
75, 25 up to 85.
There are
15.
percentages in the text.
For the
Okay.
MXD light?
Yes,
Yeah.
there are
But at
percentages in
this,
there.
but at this point,
There's percentages for residential versus commercial. There's not percentages for example, if you get 1585, 15% commercial, 85% residential. What if the developer comes in and says, okay, I want that 85% to be apartments, and we have the adequate public facilities to support that, so it's all going to be apartments.
That's why we at least changed it 25%, 75%. They
Yeah.
wanted 85%. We changed.
I see what you're saying.
Still way
Yeah.
too much.
I mean,
Yeah.
it-
Yeah,
yeah,
it
I
still is.
understand
Yeah.
what you're saying, but we're trying to keep, never mind. I don't want to go into that.
That's fine.
So Heather, can I ask you, I know you're not a commission member, but do you have any thoughts on this from the staff perspective? Because I know you've put lots and lots of
If there's not a
time.
comfort level as to, what the MXD zone, may bring as written, and you feel that you need to understand better, the connection to downtown zone and to, get additional insight, then pause. I mean, yes, we've been working on it a very long time. I think everybody had a goal in mind. But, you can always pick it up. Once it's done and it's in the code.
Then we have no
You
control.
can't undo
No.
it. Very hard to undo it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The whole thing.
Yeah, that's true.
I'd be far more, I told Heather a long time ago, I'd be far more comfortable that we went through the process, looked at everything, and if we put it aside or whatever, but we've done our job. At least we've gone through and looked at every possible.
Yeah, I mean, this is, there's no, and especially, this is a hybrid code. We're so used to the typical Euclidean zoning where you can pretty much expect what you're going to get. You know your density, you know your footprint, you know your setbacks, you know everything. And, so this is, a hybrid between a form-based, and it has a few balk regulations, but there's not a degree of certainty, and I think that that's what's hard about this. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know, the types of proposals that we're going to get, and I just doesn't appear to be a comfort level, that we're going to meet those goals, So
Well, I think if we ask the council to table it for a while, there's nothing that can hurt us. We can always bring it back exactly like it is now, but if you push it through now, you might end up with something you don't want.
right.
And we're about to have, professionals and Bill looks at this stuff, and Bill is far better at reading this stuff than I am. And we are getting some really intelligent, there's 4 or 5 of these responses they're very good. And the businesses are they've dealt with things like the Carroll Creek project going through Frederick. Frederick used to flood every time it rained. So they took this nasty little windy creek and they made this beautiful center park that's 3 or 4 miles long and is just the showcase of Frederick. And these are some of the same people that worked on that project are responding to this project. Sure would like to hear what they have to say about MXD before we try to implement something that we're not. It's not that we're not committed to, because we are. We've worked on it for a long time. We'd love to have somebody that's an expert speak first.
yeah,
Okay.
I think, if I could just interject a couple of thoughts. I think it was a very worthwhile thing for us to look at a different zoning in Mt.Airy, but I think the other night when I went to, I had been having some mixed feelings prior to the town council meeting, and Councilman Hushauer and Carl made some very good points. And I think everybody is so concerned about the downtown area. We wanted to grow, we wanted to be thriving, we wanted to be vibrant, and we felt that an extension of Center Street would help to encourage that wonderful thought. But with it goes to a lot of things that are against Mount Airy. And one of the things that makes Mount Airy so special is that it is a small town. We're not a Kentlands, we're not a Rio, and we don't want to be that. We want to be the town that we are. We want to grow. We definitely want to grow. But I'm not certain we want to grow in that particular area. Exactly, where we just like, okay, it's working in other areas, it should work here in
Right.
Mount Airy. So I would like to put it on pause, and I would like to hear experts in that area look at the topography, look at this area, look at what's working, what's not working right now, see if they can give us a better idea of long-term what direction we should take. And then at that point, we can either revisit this, or, as Larry said, we already have the mixed lights. So if somebody comes into town, say Cass Brothers, and they're interested in the Peck property, that's still going to be a discussion worth having. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to jump in with 2 feet and go for the gusto. So
I like what she says.
That being said, I make a motion that we ask the council to table the MXD ordinance decision until the completion of the downtown master plan.
I second that.
How about the presentation of the downtown master plan? Because to complete it and then get it out to the public takes a little bit longer.
I would say completion.
I'd say
'Cause
completion.
it
'cause
can
that's-
change after the
yes.
presentation.
Yep.
Okay.
And until the town, the completion is when it is accepted
Right.
by the,
And that's a
Town
valuable
council.
approach, because it's very possible, when you start to look at these proposals, they're so impressive, and we will learn so much from this experience. We really, really will.
Roxanne?
And they're independent.
Apologies
That-
for interrupting.
That the cost of it is probably going to need to be a bit more than has originally been budgeted. So there'll be that discussion too. We need to lay out the opportunity of this to the council fully. We need to do the due diligence on that too.
Okay, so there was a motion on the table, it was seconded. Any more questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes.
Then I will ask the town council at the meeting a week from tonight to table this until the downtown master plan gets completed. A couple whereases in there.
I don't think I'm gonna do whereases, but I'll wait you up something.
So Bob, could we have the council liaison report, please?
I got a couple of things here. This coming Wednesday, 3 to 7 in the municipal lot, is the very last farmer's market for 2017. It's been a very, very successful year. Get up there and get some of the deals.
I get my flowers.
This weekend, Calvary United Methodist Church celebrated its 100th anniversary of the building, the sanctuary. About, I think, 10 or 12 years ago, they celebrated the first of the group, the United Methodists, coming together and meet. I think they were meeting at Pine Chapel or somewhere. But so they had a big shindig going on all week long. EDC, MAMSA, and Greater Mount Airy Chamber of Commerce reps have been invited to this Wednesday night's meeting. Could prove interesting. You might want to stop by. And the Mount Airy Police Department goes live this Sunday, October 1.
Yay.
Thought I'd pass their phone number around. It's 301-703-1375. If they are not in the office answering that phone, it goes to the 911 operator that hands out Frederick County, Carroll County, Montgomery County, and I think there's a couple more. So, you know, if you call you're gonna get the closest cops.
Great.
And that is about all I have on my report. Yes.
Is that an emergency number, or is
That is the number to call the Mt.Airy Police Department.
That's not-
Emergency's always 911.
Oh, okay.
And they're going to dispatch our police now according to that 911 number, which means our police could be getting dispatched outside of the town limits.
Cool.
They're prepared for that. We've got memorandums of understanding with Frederick County, Carroll County, Howard, and Montgomery. And there's going to be a certain time, and it'll vary each day, where we're not going to have coverage, 2 to 3 hours at the most at any one time. And so Frederick County and Carroll County will be backing us up at that point, and might even have deputy sheriffs and everything in Mt.Airy. You've seen a lot larger presence recently of not only the Mt.Airy Town Police, but Carroll County and Frederick County coming through. In fact, they've run radar out of the entrance to the East-West Park. And in case anybody hasn't, I want to say something about the Beautification Commission. Every time I drive by East-West Park, it is so beautiful, the flowers that they've done around the signs, and beautification really needs a round of applause, because they are very, very good at doing what they do.
Okay, Heather, tell them, please let them
And
know.
that's it. That's
Thank
my
you.
report. Sorry to ramble.
Okay, so we have the October 30th is our next meeting. You can come in costume if you want. It's the day before Halloween. Then the next meeting, November 20th, that is the Monday before the week of Thanksgiving, right, Heather?
It's the Monday of the.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, of that
Monday
week, but
before
it's, so you have Thanksgiving Thursday, we're meeting Monday. That was requested for town staff going on vacation, and if you guys are okay with it, I think let's make it easier for town staff.
So which Monday will it be?
So it's the week, the Thanksgiving week, but it's before,
Monday before
the
Thanksgiving.
Monday before
Monday
Thanksgiving,
after.
rather than the Monday after Thanksgiving.
All
Yeah.
right. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to be there. I'll be coming back
Okay.
from New Orleans.
Or you can meet without me, that's fine.
Well, I'd rather you go to New Orleans, and then I'll tell you about the, go down and get the beignets.
Yes,
Yeah, you guys are on your own promotions, though.
Okay, and then we have the zoning administrator report, and then downtown master plan RFP proposals are under review currently.
Yep, they are.
Okay.
So are they still coming in, or is the deadline
The
passed?
deadline
No,
was
yeah.
August 31st. We received 10 good proposals. So we're going to be narrowing it down to 3, I believe. That's the plan.
And then what goes after the 3, what happens?
I'll have to clarify with Monica, because she's running the process.
Okay.
Okay, well, just keep us updated. Okay,
I don't want to misspeak as to what's going to happen with the
Okay.
interviews.
So is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, thank you all. Motion to adjourn. We adjourn at 9:11. Have a great evening.